Poisonous Gas, Winnie the Pooh, and Doug Williams are all on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is January 31st, 2022. It is the 31st day of the year. We got 334 days left in 2022. It is our 5th Monday in our 6th week. 42nd day of winter, 48 days until spring. We're almost at the halfway point. If today's your birthday, your zodiac sign is an Aquarius. I watched some video where they took a famous astrologer and he talked to people for a few minutes and then tried to predict what astrological sign they were. So there's 12 of them, and as he talked to them for a minute, he'd give their sign to whatever, went through this whole thing. At the end, out of the 12, he only got like 5 right. I mean, I know it's all just nonsense, but it's like this guy's one of the experts. How? Experts should be able to guess at something at least 90%, right? Today is National Backwards Day. National Backwards Day is on January 31st every single year, and it honors everything backwards with National Backwards Day. This day provides an opportunity to reverse our ways, our direction, or simply our shirt. You could do dessert for breakfast. You could do buffalo wings and beer for breakfast. I don't suggest that because if you have a family like mine, they'll just start talking about you at every single family dinner you don't make it to. Yeah, don't do that one. All right, let's see what else January 31st has given us. 1846. After the Milwaukee Bridge War, the United States towns of Juneautown and Kilbournetown unified to create the city of Milwaukee. On my other channel, I basically researched the United States and little tidbits like this. I had never heard about this one. 1848. John C. Fremont is court-martialed for mutiny and disobeying orders. John C. Fremont was a very interesting man. He was born in Savannah, Georgia in 1813, on January 21st, actually. He was an explorer, and he explored the western United States from Oregon through California and Washington. He was a military officer and politician. He was a U.S. Senator from California in 1856, so he was one of the first senators that California had. He was also the founder of the Republican Party in California and a serious opponent of slavery. This is why he's the deep dive. So he explored all of California, Oregon. This is back when it was just Native Americans and a few settlers here and there. And most of the settlers actually had Mexican heritage because California was part of Mexico before it became part of the United States. So this guy was anti-slavery, but he had no problem killing the Native Americans in California. He ran 5 expeditions throughout his life of California and Oregon, like I'd said. And on the 3rd one, his men decided to be involved in a bunch of massacres of the Native American population. During the Mexican-American War, he was a major in the United States military, and he decided to take control of the California Republic in 1846. Well, this didn't sit right, and it was kind of illegal, so he was court-martialed for mutiny and insubordination after a conflict who was the rightful military governor of California. He decided he was, while someone else was really the military governor of California. So he was sentenced and all that good stuff, but it was commuted right away by President Polk, and he was reinstated in the military. He soon retired and became one of the first 2 senators from the new state of California. That was in 1850. So at this point, he came all the way from Georgia, where he was born, made it out to California, was an explorer, massacred people, became rich, became a military governor, and then became a senator. So this guy was very accomplished. Then he became the first presidential candidate from California, where he lost his bid for presidency against James Buchanan. 5 years later, the Civil War breaks out, and President Abraham Lincoln gives him command of what's known as the Department of the West. Well, he started acting like he was the president of California. This, they said he made hasty decisions, didn't consult with Army headquarters when he did things, or President Lincoln. He issued an unauthorized emancipation edict and was relieved of his command for insubordination by Lincoln. So he retires and just decides to be a rich guy and invest his money. And he did pretty good for a while, but then he invested in what was known as the Pacific Railroad in 1866, and it totally failed, and he lost half his money. And then in 1873, there was this thing called the Panic of 1873, which was kind of like the Great Depression, just much earlier, where he lost the rest of his money. Having to go back to work, he decided to run for the governor of Arizona, which he won, and was the governor of Arizona for 3 years before he was forced to resign for, get this, making hasty decisions and not consulting experts. Sadly, Fremont retired from politics and died in destitute in New York City in 1890. This man had a very interesting life, both good and bad. Actually, a lot of bad, but still, he had some good things happen to him, and a very interesting story, and most people don't know he ever existed. I mean, they named the city of Fremont, California after him. That was about it. 1862, Alvin Graham Clark discovers the white dwarf star Sirius B, a companion of Sirius, through an 18.5-inch telescope now located at Northwestern University. 1865, American Civil War Confederate General Robert E. Lee becomes the General-in-Chief of all Confederate armies. 1915, World War I. Germany becomes the first country to use large-scale poisonous gas in warfare. This happened against Russian troops. 1949, All My Children, the first television daytime soap opera, is broadcast by NBC station in Chicago. You know, soap operas were such a big part of American life for such a long time. I mean, first one, 1949, and now there's, I think, 2. At some points in our history, there was like 15 on any season. You know, some would come and go after a season, but you know, the big ones like General Hospital, All My Children, Days of Our Lives, there were so many, and now nobody watches those things anymore. 1957, 8 people in Pacoima, California are killed following a mid-air collision between a Douglas DC-7 airliner and a Northrop F-89 Scorpion fighter jet. That kind of sucks. Never heard about that one. 1971, the Winter Soldier investigation. Yes, this was a thing, not just a Marvel character. This was organized by the Vietnam Veterans Against the War. It was designed to publicize war crimes and atrocities by Americans and allies in Vietnam. Investigation begins in Detroit. 1978, the crown of Saint Stephen, known as the Holy Crown of Hungary, goes on public display after being returned to Hungary from the United States, where it was held after World War II. 1988, Doug Williams becomes the first African-American quarterback to play in the Super Bowl and lead the Washington Redskins to victory in Super Bowl 22. 2018, both a blue moon and a total lunar eclipse occur. I remember when that happened. That was pretty interesting. Movies released on January 31st, 2003, The Recruit. This was a pretty good movie. It starred Colin Farrell and Al Pacino, and it's about a secret training ground in Virginia for CIA agents, known as The Farm. The story centers around recruit James Clayton, an MIT computer programmer who joins the CIA. The film's working title was actually called The Farm. Born on January 31st, 1905, Eva Hart. She was a Titanic survivor who became the most outspoken critic of the vessel's lack of lifeboats after the ship sinking in 1912. When Eva was placed on the lifeboat by her father and told to hold mommy's hand and be a good little girl, this moment was recreated by director James Cameron in the 1997 movie Titanic. She was only 7 years old when she boarded the Titanic as a second-class passenger with her parents in Southampton, England. Now, if you know anything about the Titanic, one of the biggest problems is they didn't have enough lifeboats. They had enough lifeboats pretty much for the rich people, and sadly at the time all the Italians and the Irish and people like that were considered second and third class passengers and basically were warehoused at the bottom of the ship. They thought Titanic was unsinkable, and that's why they didn't bother putting enough lifeboats on there. They just figure everyone was, fine without lifeboats because the ship was impossible to sink. Died on January 31st, 1956, A.A. Milne, English author, poet, and playwright. He created Winnie the Pooh, and he was born in 1882. He based Winnie the Pooh off his son, Christopher Robin Milne, actually, and his stuffed animals that he had, which were a bear, a donkey or a mule, a tiger, and a kangaroo. He added the owl and the pig on his own. But if you ever want to see those, they are on display, or at least they used to be, at New York's Public Library's main branch. The actual stuffed animals. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a productive day, and most importantly, be nice to each other.